Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some extremely spicy battles in the Open Ultra League featuring ARCHEOPS. ARCHEOPS is a rock and flying type Pokemon with the moveset of Wing Attack, Dragon Claw, and Ancient Power, and it has one of the highest possible attack stats in the entire Ultra League. This means it cannot take a hit, but it can deal absolutely massive damage. This is not a Pokemon that I'd recommend for climbing, but I paired it up with a Shiftry and a Charizard and had some fun sets with it. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out ARCHEOPS in action in the Ultra League. Hopping to the first match, picking up a terrible lead Shiftry into Shadow Charizard. I immediately save switch into my own, and my opponent is going to switch out and send in Shadow Snorlax. This is incredibly fortunate for me, as my opponent switched from a matchup where they had an advantage because they were up a fast move, to now I'm in a matchup where I can force either shield advantage or switch advantage. I'm able to grab an early shield from my opponent, and that's good enough for me. If I can get shield advantage for the incredibly glassy ARCHEOPS in the back, then hopefully ARCHEOPS can help sweep the endgame. My opponent goes for the farm down, and they get it. I'm going to send in Shiftry here, basically just invite them to superpower, and then I'm going to snipe with a Wing Attack from ARCHEOPS. So now I have a shield advantage and a small energy lead in the back. My opponent has Swampert, so my opponent read that I was trying to bait out any potential water types in the back, and they saved the Swampert for the ARCHEOPS. I fire off the Dragon Claw. That does not get same type attack bonus, but man does that do quite a bit of damage. My opponent fires off the Hydro Cannon. I continue to farm up with the ARCHEOPS. They go for Hydro Cannon number 2, and I just have to hope that the Wing Attacks can put it into Dragon Claw range. I'm farming up, going for the Dragon Claw just before they make it to the move. Dragon Claw is going to get the shield from the Swampert, and I win CMP with Dragon Claw number 3. Is this enough to KO? Yes, it is! In comes the Shadow Charizard, and that's gonna be game over as ARCHEOPS makes it to the Ancient Power. Ancient Power nukes the Charizard, and that is a good game. Moving into the next match, going up against fellow content creator Dan Ottawa, picking up a disastrous lead, Shiftry into Obstagoon. I save switch into Charizard, and I'm met with Jellicent, and you could not ask for a much worse start of a game. Jellicent is going to go for the Surf. That deals a ton of damage, and even though I have massive energy on the Charizard, XL Jellicent is just so bulky that I can throw charge move after charge move after charge move here, and Jellicent is just not going to be KO'd. So I landed a Blast Burn, I go for a Dragon Claw, and I make it to another Dragon Claw, and this still somehow does not KO. Jellicent able to hang on. They're going to make it to a charge move here, and I'm just going to let this go. I can't afford to go down shields considering I have ARCHEOPS in the back. I bring back in Shiftry, going for the Snarl Down. I'm not going to take much damage here. It is going to be the Surf, but then back in comes the Obstagoon, and Obstagoon is very tough for both Shiftry and ARCHEOPS. I fire off the Leaf Blade. That deals quite a bit of damage. My opponent is going to fire off a charge move here. If it's the Cross Chop, it might KO. Cross Chop barely does not KO, and I make it to a last second Leaf Blade. This will be getting the Obstagoon low. Obstagoon commits the shield. Now it's all up to ARCHEOPS. ARCHEOPS has to shield everything here as it is so glassy. Opponent goes for the Cross Chop. I continue to farm. Obstagoon has a lot of energy. I will be committing my final shield here as they do go for the Night Slash. Obstagoon gets the boost. You have got to be kidding me. That's absolutely terrible. I fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw not going to KO, but in the back, it's a Shadow Charizard. One win con, going for the bait. Dragon Claw gets the shield. ARCHEOPS makes it to the Ancient Power, and against all odds, ARCHEOPS one-shots the Shadow Charizard, farms down the Obstagoon, and secures the win. The tough leads continue in the next match, Shiftry into Virizion. I save switch into Charizard, and my opponent is going to respond with a Charizard of their own. I build up to the Blast Burn, I decide to bait with the Dragon Claw, and I'm able to grab a shield from my opponent. My opponent continues to farm. At this point, I'm just going to let this through. They go for a Dragon Claw bait themselves. I'm easily able to withstand that damage and return fire with the Blast Burn. Blast Burn is going to get them low. My opponent continues to farm. They're going to fire off another charge move. Again, I'm just not going to shield here. They go for the Dragon Claw. On 1 HP by Charizard, able to survive, make it to another Dragon Claw, and get both shields. So now I have a 2-0 shield advantage, and I'm going to send in Archeops. I will commit the shield, as even a resisted Blast Burn would do just about all of my HP. Let's see what they have in the back. They have Wall Rain. I farm up, switch, and catch the Icicle Spear, so that way I can absorb the damage onto my Shiftry. But the unfortunate thing here is that my opponent is going to farm back up some energy and then send in Virizion. And since I'm not running Hurricane, I have absolutely nothing to hit Virizion with. Leaf Blade is going to land. That just does not do a lot of damage. I'm going for Leaf Blade number 2 here. Leaf Blade is going to connect. I've managed to get them below half health, but they just have so much energy on Virizion, and I need 2 Ancient Powers if I'm going to be able to KO the Wall Rain. Unfortunately, my opponent just has too much energy on Virizion. Sacred Sword, just about gonna KO, and that's game over. Picking up a positive lead in the next match, Shiftry into Giratina Altered. We'll have to check the fast move on the Giratina. It's a Shadow Claw Giratina, so this is an incredibly good matchup for Shiftry. So the fact that they're staying in means they're probably core broken by Shiftry, and if that means there's a water in the back, then I desperately need to bait it out. So I will need to save switch into Charizard at some point. I'm able to land the Foul Play. That deals a massive amount of damage. They go for the Dragon Claw. I'm going to let this through. I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back Leaf Blades, switch and catch a move onto my Charizard. This way, I save energy on the Shiftry, and I check for a water type, and on cue, there it is. My opponent has a Shadow Swampert lurking in the back. I'm going for the Blast Burn here. It's resisted, but it's still going to hit for a lot of damage. Shadow Swampert looking to farm up. They're going to go for the Hydro Cannon. I'm going to let this go. Charizard did its job, baited out the water type, and now I have 2 Leaf Blades, so I can start firing off charge moves at the Swampert. Opponent commits the shield. They're reading the team, recognizing that I am weak in the back to Swampert. They shield not once, but twice. And here, I'm just going to let Shiftry go. I'm putting my full faith into Archeops. In comes Archeops, looking for the wing attack farm down. They will make one final Hydro Cannon. I will commit my first shield. In the back, my opponent has a Shadow Alolan Ninetales. Shields down, we Ancient Power. Ancient Power, massive damage onto the Ninetales. Ninetales will make it to a Weather Ball, but they do not get 2. So I can commit the shield, the wing attack KOs, and I have to throw my move at the Giratina. If they send in the Swampert, I can just farm it down. That's exactly what they do, and I leave with a ton of energy, and that will be game over for Giratina. Archeops takes down the Tina and gets the win. The tough leads return in the next match, Shiftry into another Virizion. At this point, I'm wishing that I was running Hurricane. I save switch into Charizard, and my opponent responds with Aurorus. I'm going straight for the Blast Burn here. This does not KO, but it's going to make its mark. Opponent will commit the shield. Aurorus has farmed up quite a bit of energy. I decide to commit the shield here as I'm expecting a Meteor Beam, and they do full send the beam. Their attack is now boosted, so when they go for this Weather Ball, it's going to do more damage than it previously would have. Weather Ball is going to get me low. Charizard able to make it to the Blast Burn, and this is going to do a lot of damage. Decision time for the opponent. They're going to double shield. I cannot make a third Blast Burn, so I have to settle for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is going to connect, not dealing a lot of damage, and I'm just going to send in Shiftry and basically just use it to absorb energy. They go for the boosted Weather Ball. That deals massive damage. Shiftry, farm it up, winning CMP over Aurorus. So now I have Archeops with a shield advantage in the back. I'm looking to send in Archeops into Virizion. In the back, my opponent has Wall Rain. At this point, I think I need an Ancient Power boost to win. Firing off the Ancient Power. It connects, and we do not see a boost. That is very unfortunate. Archeops commits the shield. I will have to fire off another charge move here on the CMP tie, and that's exactly what I do. Dragon Claw is going to be lethal to the Wall Rain, but unfortunately, Virizion has energy. In comes Virizion. I'm going to fire off the Dragon Claw, but it's just not going to be enough damage to KO. Dragon Claw is going to land. Virizion gets the full farm down, and I concede the match. Moving to the next match, picking up a disastrous lead, Shiftry into Registeel. The entire team gets hit for super effective damage by Registeel. I'm going to switch into Charizard, and my opponent is not switching out because they can just shield the Blast Burn and get shields back with Zap Cannon. So Blast Burn does get the shield. I'm going to shield up the Zap Cannon. We'll have to see, do they debuff me? Yes, they do. And my opponent is now going to send in Pidgeot. Pidgeot is going to be met with Blast Burn, but unfortunately, this is debuffed courtesy of the Zap Cannon. they're going to be able to hang on. They farm up a ton of energy, and here I am expecting them to Brave Bird. So I will commit the shield. They do go for the Brave Bird. I'm looking to pivot, farming up, switch into Archeops, and catch the Brave Bird. This is going to be resisted, but nothing looks resisted on Archeops, as that nearly does my entire health bar. My opponent can send back in Registeel. Here, I should have gone for the Ancient Power. I was thinking I was just going to spam out Dragon Claws, basically just to try and stall the Switch Clock, but I should have gone for the Ancient Power, as Ancient Power, of course, does get same type attack bonus. So I fire off the Ancient Power into the Registeel. Registeel continues to farm, and they make a critical mistake. They Switch Lock a Trevenant, and now my Shiftry has the ability to farm. Shiftry will be hit with the Shadow Ball. That does a lot of damage. This entire team, not the tankiest. I farm up to the back-to-back foul plays here, going for the first foul play into the Trevenant. It KOs, and I leave with a move. In comes the Registeel to be met with the foul play. Foul play is going to connect. They can't farm down. They're going to have to throw a charge move, but that means they are at minimum 10 lock-ons away from making it to the Zap Cannon. Charizard can outpace, so the opponent concedes the match. Picking up the dream lead in the next match, Shiftry into Trevenant. Opponent is staying in this matchup, so they are very clearly weak to Shiftry in the back. Shiftry farming up, going for the foul play, and I shouldn't have thrown on alignment, as my opponent is able to make a very nice catch onto Galarian Stunfisk. Now Stunfisk, a very awkward Pokemon for my backline to see, so I'm kind of forced to stay in with Shiftry. My opponent is going to fire off a Rock Slide. I'm going to let this go, as I know I am going to be able to tank it, and then I can farm up and then go for another Leaf Blade. This Leaf Blade, it's going to be close. I'm hoping it's going to KO. Leaf Blade does get the KO. That's quite nice. And if my opponent sends in the Trevenant, then I'm just going to be firing off the foul play. Foul play would do a ton of damage. They have a lot of energy, so they will commit the shield. I continue to farm with the Shiftry. I'm just going to let this go, and then hopefully my flying types in the back can do well. I decide to bank a move, switch in the Charizard, and this is enough for a Shadow Ball, so I will commit the shield. It is the Shadow Ball, and they were triple weak to Shiftry, but I have made a crucial error. I have let the Shiftry get too low. Blast Burn is going to be no shielded. Shadow Charizard farming up, and I'm in a tough spot here. I decide to let this go. Hydro Cannon is going to KO since it's the Shadow. I send in Shiftry, go for the Leaf Blade, but my opponent can shield here, and then actually Mud Shot down the Shiftry. I have to send in Archeops. Archeops will have to commit the final shield. I need to overfarm as much as possible and then go for the Dragon Claw on the CMP type, but I lost count. Opponent makes the Hydro, and that's game over. Hopping to the final match, leading Shiftry into Regirock. Not a bad matchup. Opponent save switches into a Dragon Breath Giratina Altered. My opponent is going to be firing off the Dragon Claw, and I'm going to let this through as I can tank one. However, I do need to save the Shiftry for dealing with that Regirock later in the game, so after I land the foul play, I'm going to farm up some energy, bank a Leaf Blade, and then send in Charizard. My opponent is going to fire off a charge move. I tank whatever they throw here. Opponent goes for the Dragon Claw, and now I can farm up and then fire off a Dragon Claw of my own. This will be lethal. Opponent running out of HP. They're just going to let the Giratina go because they have an absolute wall to Charizard available in Regirock. I'm firing off the Blast Burn. It is resisted, and Regirock, as you're going to see, not worried about a Blast Burn whatsoever. It tanks it like it's nothing, and the double super effective Stone Edge will easily KO. I'm going to fully wait my clock and send back in Shiftry. Shiftry may have a lot less HP than before, but I have a lot of energy. So I'm going to start spamming out these Leaf Blades. Leaf Blade number 1 is going to be shielded by the Regirock, farming up and making it to Leaf Blade number 2. This will not be lethal, but it will get them low. Leaf Blade gets the Regirock low. Opponent tries to catch a Leaf Blade onto Trevenant, but I'm able to hang on to my energy, go for the foul play, and grab the final shield. And now in comes Archeops. Archeops, smelling blood in the water, is going to be shielding whatever Trevenant throws. They full send the Shadow Ball. Archeops farming up, going for the Ancient Power. This Ancient Power will be taking care of the Trevenant, and Archeops has energy. In comes the Regirock, and Regirock, unfortunately, not going to get to use its energy as Dragon Claw KOs, and that is a good game. All in all, I had an absolute blast running Archeops. Archeops, being as attack weighted as it is, really does struggle in most matchups in the Ultra League, especially because this is a league that is defined by bulk. Registeel, Giratina, Cresselia, but in situations where it can get a shield advantage or an energy lead, it can be a lot of fun, especially when your opponent has an unsuspecting Charizard. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.